In this segment, we're going to look at supporting crying. And in my experience, what people need when they cry is very different person to person. And I think your very best tactic at the first is to ask your listening partner if they know what's helpful to them when they cry. A few of us do. A few of us cry often enough and are aware of what helps from someone who's nearby. And so if there's information there, you'll get it and you can use that information. However, many of us haven't cried for years intentionally and have a hard time turning in that direction, and we don't know what we want. So in the absence of information there, it's probably a good idea to simply listen and care and keep paying attention. Most of us have the experience when we were children of being either attacked or dismissed or both when we cried. Our parents were upset with us. If we continued, they got more upset. And so as a listener, any big overt action that you take when someone begins to cry can possibly re-stimulate their defenses. As we try to be helpful, all of a sudden, all the times that big people weren't helpful to them when they were little get kicked up and the crying will stop. So if you make a wrong move, you'll see the person sort of beginning to tear up, and then you offer a word of reassurance or you hop in to hold their hand, and it's over. If you see that, then whatever you did there, just, don't do it again for a while. It might be a good thing to do after they know you for 3 more months, but it might have been a little too soon to offer the kind of support that you thought might be helpful. And in listening partnerships, oftentimes, you have to make a mistake in order to learn something. So don't worry if someone's crying has stopped because you moved this way or you put your hand on their knee. If that stops them, then take your hand off their knee, undo the move that you did, and you'll go back to square one, and hopefully they'll find a place where they can find those feelings again. I think when we were infants and young children, what was supportive to us and what just about every human being wants and needs is someone to keep paying attention, someone to care about us, and often someone to hold us close. However, by the time we've grown up, we've had enough disappointments in the support area that we can't let someone in very close. Those doors have been up for a while, and it takes a good trusting relationship to lower them back down again. So it may be that, physical support, a hand on someone's back or offering to hold their hand or a hand on their knee, is too much in the beginning just because of the thoughtlessness that's happened over and over and over again in their lives. It's not that you're not a good person to offer that, it's that they can't accept it because of hurts that sit there, at least not at first. So don't worry, it's a good idea to take a look at example 8 or some of the other examples you've already seen to get a picture of what it means to simply listen and how much power there is in that to support crying. There's not much you have to do except listen and care and pay good close attention and keep your confidence up so that while their confidence goes down into an area of hurt that's been bothering them for a long time, your confidence stays up. Sometimes that confidence can be offered in verbal reassurance, and this can work. It can work beautifully. Sometimes a little comment of verbal reassurance can take someone who's telling you how sad they feel and tip them over into being able to release those feelings, into crying right there. And the kinds of reassurance that you can offer are based on the reality of the situation. They're based on the fact that this person is good. They're based on the fact that their children are good, no matter how much they're worrying about their children. They're based on the fact that they love well. So you can say things like, you're a good dad. You're a good mom. You can say things like, your son is trying hard. Your daughter wants your love. You can say things like, you'll figure this out. I know you will. I want to tell you my 5-word rule for reassurance, and that is, if you said more than 5 words in an attempt to reassure the person who's crying you're trying to support, you need to begin to be careful, because over 5 words and you are going to distract them. You're going to bring their mind into the prefrontal cortex, where they're going to try hard to understand everything that you're saying, and away from their attention on their own feelings. So keep your reassurance very short and to the point, so that you're supporting their mind rather than drawing their mind back out away from where the feelings are finally releasing. What you want to do is offer the person who's crying your confidence. Most likely, their confidence goes down. They can't feel their confidence in themselves as they're working on a hurt that they've been holding a long time. And in order for the crying to continue, your confidence needs to be right there, expressed almost entirely non-verbally. But you want to use a confident tone, and you want to use a warm and generous tone as you offer your less than 5 word reassurance in order to support their crying rather than distract them. You know, as we reassure, where our mind goes that's really helpful is on the fact that the person who is feeling really badly at the moment in the midst of tears is not the same as his or her struggle. It's like the struggle is a struggle, and there's lots of feelings involved in it, but the basic person and their basic capabilities are really separate from the struggle. The basic person is much stronger than the struggle indicates, and his or her basic capabilities are much broader and much fuller, than the feelings indicate. And you kind of want to keep your consciousness on what's possible and what they're capable of, not what you see before you and not what's going to happen tomorrow, but what they're capable of over time as they unload the hurt and regain their intelligence. So you're the confidence beacon while they go in and work through and release the hard feelings that are there. When someone begins to cry, some of us assume that they ought to be able to look at us, that we ought to stay in eye contact with them. And that's actually not necessary, and it's not helpful for you to insist on eye contact. Most people, when they cry, have a very hard time looking at the person who's the listener. When they were little, they looked up and saw someone who was angry or saw someone who was impatient. What they saw when they were crying was not encouraging. And so they've learned to keep crying by keeping their gaze averted. Oftentimes people put their hands over their eyes, sometimes they cover their head in their arm. And once I had a listening partner who couldn't cry at all if she was even facing me. She'd had a mother who was depressed and who leaned on her for emotional support for most of her childhood. And this listening partner had to turn and face the wall and have me face her, offering my attention. And after she'd turned away from me for 3 or 4 minutes, she could finally notice what she felt, and she could finally cry. And I could give her a little bit of verbal, attention every now and then so that she knew I was still paying attention. But the fact that her mother had leaned so hard on her and had sort of looked at her with all this misery made it so that me looking at her, kicked up those old feelings of, I have to take care of this person, I have to take care of this person. And she had no idea how she felt while we were facing one another. So we just did our listening partnerships that way, with her facing the wall and me paying attention so that she could actually notice her feelings. So there is no need for your listening partner to look at you very often. However, when they look, and they will, it's very important for your warm countenance to be right there, for your eyes to meet theirs right when they finally take a chance and look, because they're taking a chance on you out of early discouragement. They didn't see kind and accepting faces when they cried, and it's going to be very, very helpful to them to see you there, pleased with them and pleased with the fact that they're sharing their really deep feelings with you.